Salutations, everyone. Because I am in the works with doing some very important, detailed things, it is going to become important that everybody understands from what I'm arguing for and what I'm talking about as we move forward on certain topics. Because I consider it to be both a hobby and also now my job to report on some bullshit on a, I wouldn't say day-to-day basis, but happenstance case basis. It's important that we understand the case of what brought certain things like the topic of this video to light. To do that, we're gonna have to go back far beyond the Twitter weirdos mutated into the current form. We're gonna have to go further back than before, when Tumblr still actually was a platform and not a dead husk of its former skeleton. We're gonna have to go all the way back to the start. So let's talk about ArtEditTwtter. How else best to start than to go all the way back to the source? Where it really began. Meet ArtEditTumblr. Accounts that go far beyond the expanse of Twitter, that can best be, summarized and indemnified in people spending every single day, every other day, and almost every single chance possible to edit the art of popular shows that they're into. It doesn't matter if it's Steven Universe, and it certainly doesn't matter if it's things like New Raw. The art exists to, when you look at the art, as we scroll down and look over these things, we can very clearly see why people draw it. They can be fans. They can be obsessed with the show to the point of fanaticism. They can be a multiple of things. But what it never is not is just for the love of the art. Most of the time, what we expect to see in these places is fetishism. People obsessing to the point of wanting these creatures to choke them. We see it with Adventure Time. We see it with New Raw, Netflix, She-Ra, and the Princesses of Power. We see it with Steven Universe. We've seen it with The Legend of Korra. We've seen it even with The Last Airbender. We've seen it with any single thing that is a property that's existed in the consciousness of the last 10 to 15 years as a cartoon animation production. They all have fans like this. But it's very rare, very, very rare, that you will actually see the internal politics of these things come to light. And that is when we go from just being fans to harassment of fans. Meet Zammy. 070. Her harassment should be very cognizant to you in your mind. The reason why is because this person was harassed into attempting suicide. All because they drew art that wasn't to the standard of what people wanted in their communities. It is because she drew what would have been considered trans and fat-phobic art, as we see here, that people hounded them non-stop. People said that she deserved to be harassed, that her apology, the apology that she gave here, was admission of guilt, as they normally do. That the apology was proof that they knew that they sinned against the group, and against the fandom, and the woke Twitterati and the woke Tumblrellas came for them. This led to them not just attempting suicide once, but twice. And it was only when the creators on the show spoke out against it that they were made to care that their showrunners and their gods and goddesses had denounced them publicly. And of course, there are some people, like the people who wrote this here, I believe this one as well. Ah, yes. This right here as well. These people, when they got pushed back against and were told that what they were doing was unacceptable, they decided that, no, you can get fucked. No, why aren't you getting as woke as I am? I thought this is what you wanted. These people were afraid, terrified, reviled, repulsed, and outright, well, I wouldn't say dignified. There's a stronger word, and it's not repulsed. They were a synonym for scared. We're going to go with that. They were frightened that their wokeness was too woke. That they had gone so far left that everyone to the right of them became a Nazi in their eyes. And it's because of this that the showrunners had to come out and say something, otherwise they'd be associated and be guilty by association with these crazed stands. Fast forward to the shutdown of Tumblr, where they seek out and destroy the platform because they're all worried about those female-presenting nipples. Move forward to now, where we're on Twitter, and people make art, and people decide to make edits of their art. This is not an uncommon occurrence. This is actually an everyday thing. Every week they find something new to talk about, they find something new to be stupid about, and they get upset about it. For example, one of my associates that was gunned down in the street and suspended for commenting at them and for riling them up came to one Ramos Isaac with their edit of Samus Aran and dared to clap back at them. This led, of course, to a storm where people were butt mad for several days, many of them, throughout February and throughout March and April. These people were mad, and they stayed mad. They stayed mad enough to get him banned. The evolution began to spiral out of control, where these people, being upset, got to what brought us to this. Now, to cover Nessa, and to really understand how ArtEditTwtter got so mad because of something they caused themselves, we have to understand the reason why Nessa was the explosion of this powder keg, and the reason why it was necessary for me to log these tweets so that we could talk about it. To do that, let's take a quick search. So far as I can go back, right around the first announcements for Sword and Shield, it was necessary. That's naive, spell popo. It was necessary for people to be so upset about, well, an edit from the black skin Nessa to the light skin Nessa, that as they became frustrated at all the Asian artists that baited them, because there was an arc to this. It started out that people were upset and mad and raging about Nessa. see if I can go all the way back. All the way back. Right around here. When people started making edits about Nessa and upsetting them and making them angry, they started making edits about Nessa. They started making threads about her. And the threads, if I can actually just go back and all the way back and find it, possibly. It's probably inside my folders. Let's focus on this for now. The harassment started off with ArtEditTwtter adding and stalking and badgering artists about their edits to Nessa. First it started out with the edits that they made for the other trainer, then they focused on Nessa. They were upset and mad that people were fetishizing her breast size, despite the fact that the character themselves looked flat-chested. And then it moved to fetishization of Nessa, which I'm completely for. I'm for fetishization of both genders. These people are upset because they obsess about skin color, about diversity, about wokeness, and they considered it an erasure of Nessa's skin color to change the skin color, despite at the same time claiming that making white characters black was acceptable. From such posts, if I can find it. From threads such as this, where we have people who were upset and angry, so angry that their posts were making it acceptable for one, but not the other. So, for example, you take a white character, people make fan art of them with different skin tones. The first case, which would be called the blacklash, is acceptable. But then you take a black character and change them of any other fair-skinned or white skin color. You whitewash them. That's wrong. You have plenty of examples across the entirety of everything, where people say, if this is okay, then this is okay. And so on and so forth. To the point that people like Marcus Larry got pulled into this. They were upset and mad because of them making accurate opinions about art. It led to things such as the account that was giving tips to artists on how to draw. They shut down their account because they were harassed over this. It led to artists who didn't have the actual clout to defend themselves from this being shut down, banned off the platform, or outright just closing their accounts ahead of this and then just moving to a new platform like Pivx. It got to a fever pitch, to say the least, that brought it to the point where we would witness the largest wall-to-wall caterwauling to be offered, which was my thread, where I call them out by name. And the reason I call them out by name is because of this here. On screen is a piece of work from Evil Art. They intentionally, baiting these people, drew the Nessa that's on screen. It was because of this that they did what they always do. They got mad, and then they decided to try to do what they always think is now acceptable and has now been codified and protected and made acceptable to do on Twitter.com, which is to lead a mass cross-platform deplatformation of the payment processors and the methods of crowdfunding for artists and for creators. This person would go on to explain how they can destroy this person's livelihood. This goes alongside the exact same thing which I broke news on, which was covered by Bounding Into Comics, with Mecha Random 42. You've seen the coverage that I did in the last videos that I covered on the site, and that I covered in the situation. My moment's still there. You can read it as much as you would like. These people believe that they have the privilege, and that they have the right, and that they are in the right to do this. Now, as far as it goes with the art that was drawn by Evil Art, I don't have an opinion. It doesn't bother me. I understand that he's baiting someone, and that was drawn in jest. I had an interview with him where he told me as much, and he laughed at the fact that these people got mad. He had no reason to be mad, other than because they wanted to be. And that is what comes down to the brass tacks of the entire situation. The situation happens because they're looking for something to be mad about. Since they know that they're being protected by Twitter, these things encircle themselves. But you see, it goes further than just them getting mad and then making platforms, and then them deplatforming others. It goes to the point where when you talk about them to their face, and you mock them, these people will come at you. And they'll come at you and never stop coming at you. Because they believe that they're going to be safe when they do these things. For example, let's look at this interaction I had with somebody being upset on my thread. Now, as I always do say in my threads, I'll say now, please don't contact these people. Don't contact them, don't at them, don't talk to them. They consider opinions that they disagree with to be harassment. And they consider this harassment to be violence. And they report it. And they know that if they report it and they use the specific words that Twitter has codified as being the definitions of hate speech in their reports to report you, that they will usually get a penalty. Now, this works against them, but that's for another video. In this interaction, this person tells me that they deserve to be shut down 100%. And I direct them to the comments and to the words that I said. And I told them that if people make a choice not to buy the products and not to buy the art, that's a consequence of making the work. What they're advocating for, however, is not that. They're not telling people if you don't like it, don't buy it. What they're telling people is that if you don't like him, you can report him. And it's acceptable to do so. And all these people do, and all they did, and all they continue to do, is give people a bigger platform. When you attack somebody and you martyr them because you think you're justified, all you're doing is bringing more attention for that person. Because they deserve it. They're the ones that are being made weak. They're the ones that are being annoyed. They're the ones who are being victimized. You can't be a victim and also be the aggressor. This isn't communism. I'm sorry. It got to the point that not only was Evil Art being attacked personally, it was proof that others were having this done to them as well. For example, this user here, the user by the name of Itsukarin, their account was also suspended, and their reach was diminished because they were reported because of this art. Now, far be it beyond me to watch people get butt mad about something like this, but it continues and continued. I told them when I wrote my thread that if they keep doing this, it's going to get used on them. Someone's going to use this tactic, someone's going to use this language and connotation words, and they're going to find a way to make them feel how we feel. And of course, this did happen. Even if it is bait, E:R made a thread where he outright put Hassan Piker on blast. And as I said to them then, in these screenshots, with individuals like Otterpop, they came at me looking to try and get me suspended, like they did to everyone else. And I told them you have to be prepared, because when this happens to you, I will defend you, but I'm going to taunt you and laugh at you, because you were wrong and I was right. And lo and behold, not only did the thing that I said would happen happened, it happened immediately after they tried me. And the reason why it's important to bring that up, as we cover this topic on ArtEditTwtter, is because when they came for me, what happened was interesting. Twitter outright told me to my face that because I exposed these people's behavior, because I reported the actual harassment campaign that went after Evil Art, because I was mocking these people when they came to my profile, when I was mocking these people in random comment sections by making jokes at their expense with memes and with choice language that did not use profanity, and even reporting and using my threads as examples. What Twitter did was Twitter, instead of actually suspending the harassment campaign, endorsed it by keeping it up. It's been reported thousands of times by people in our networks. It's been reported by many people in our communities and by several of our mutuals. And yet that still is up there, and it still remains. And yet myself, I'm told that these two tweets on screen are unacceptable, where I call them out and I mock them because of what they do. This, of course, being right next to my preservation and my disclaimer. Despite saying constantly that nobody should contact these people, and also that when these people come to me, I give them what they give me, Twitter instead, under the direction of people like Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadad, they instead rule that they are not in violation and that there is nothing wrong with it. And thus, the actions continue. It's a turtles all the way down thing, you see. You start up at something has art made of it. And then you go to people talking about the art. And then you see people making excuses for people harassing others about the art, saying, oh, well, it's racist. Oh, well, it's sexist. Oh, because it's misogynistic. Then it becomes, you attack them because we don't like them. Even in the case of Bait. I mean, Evil Art wasn't just attacked here because of that. He's done other things. He's made drawings of a white Black Panther, which is accurate and canonical to the comic books. He's made other examples of choice edits, as have many artists. And yet, time and time again, we come back to the subject of the whitewashing and the blacklash. It's wrong for people to draw art of quote-unquote Caucasian white Anglo-Saxon or otherwise characters who have alabaster skin. But it's acceptable to take characters that were already white and make them any skin color of black or any other ethnicity that is Hispanic or non-Hispanic. And it's acceptable to even make new characters that effectively replace those characters. So, it's not just an acceptance of mob rule, it's the codification and the reinforcement of the rules to go only one way. People of this specific leaning, people of this specific worldview, they're allowed. They're allowed to make Unessa black and keep her black. They're allowed to take your white characters and make them black. They're allowed to take your other characters and make them Muslim, make them Asian, make them Hispanic, make them anything that they want other than white. And you see, it goes so far. It goes so far down in the corporate structure that it extends itself to Twitter's own information, to their own news bumpers. The reason what made me spurn to talk about this was that even with the smallest shit, they make it this bad. If I can remember the keywords. Oh, I remember. I said bro a lot. Here we go. Even with the case of Twitter's own art, with their own bumper art, for the notifications, they have to change it from a cartoon white female behind a keyboard to this. What has been referred to as woke hipster mode. That's how far down this goes. It's not just a case of ArtEditTwtter being out of control and just being overly opinionated and entitled. Oh no. It's a codification of this attitude to be acceptable all the way down to the point that the people who make the art bumpers and the information bumpers for Twitter have to play the game that they're playing. They have to appease them, otherwise they're gonna get harassed non-stop. And that's what we see here. This extends itself over to Little Mermaid. It extends itself over to every single edit that's been made in any other art or any topic discussing art. As it relates to anything that is in the public, that is in public parlance and public knowledge. It extends itself to Pokemon, it extends itself to art in general with comic books, it extends itself to television shows and characters that are being edited to make them diverse. It extends itself to inclusion and diversity as a codification, as I talked about before. To understand ArtEditTwtter is to understand the mind of a Tumblrella. Somebody who came from, effectively, an echo chamber, who did nothing but bitch about art 24/7 and bitch about representation 24/7, being put onto a mainstream platform like Twitter, where they now reach thousands and millions more people than normal, to the point that everybody sees the dumbass edits they make, and they mock them. And because they get mocked so much, and because the people who run Twitter are the same exact kind of person as the person who makes art edits, and are sympathetic to these individuals, they allow them to run roughshod over everyone else. That effectively is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a mob. We're dealing with a lynch mob. We're dealing with a lynch mob that cares so much about looking good that they don't do good. Next time on this topic, we're going to go into detail about Little Mermaid and about the ginger side. I promised this earlier before, but some things came up, so I apologize for the late video. As always, I'm your boy Carl, and I'll see you guys next time. Remember to have yourselves a damn good one, everyone.